A Giants podcast for Giants fans
by Giants fans.
It's Shaun Morash.
On the sideline, into the end zone. Touchdown, Giants!
From the offseason through the wins and the losses, it's time to take one Giant step.
Draft week is upon us. Welcome into One Giant Step. I'm Shaun Morash, joined, as always, by Bryce, Gelman. The lead up, the ramp up. Feels like it was just yesterday we were doing kick flips here, backflips for Jermaine Illuminor, signed as a free agent. But finally, draft week is here. One met with a lot of intrigue. Will the Giants walk away on Thursday night with a new franchise quarterback, or someone they hope is a franchise quarterback? Will they not walk away, and will fans be upset one way or another? Getting the temperature of this fan base has been something else. Bryce, where are we at now that we're finally on draft week here? We fired up, nervous, distracted elsewhere because we're getting spring runs from a couple of the playoff locals. Where are you at?
No change in status of the Giants. I'm locked into the Knicks all day, baby. Like that's my main focus right now, or at least last night.
Just what Giants fans tuning in want to hear.
This is what I said to you before the show. Like, there's only one thing that could bring me down from this high, and we'll get into it. Like, I'm not gonna spoil that, but I think many of you out there know what I'm talking about because we've talked about it before here, and a lot of those fans that are listening probably feel the exact same way as I do. But yeah, I mean, anxious. This is the anxiety season. Like, it ramps up before the draft, especially as we keep discussing the fact that the Giants are in the spot that they are. They're high expectations at the same time. Like, it's very important that they get this right. Like, I think maybe last year there wasn't this type of expectation, the type of pressure that we have this year, Shaun. So anxiety is the one thing that I'd say to describe how I'm feeling.
I think I've really boiled it down. I've probably overthought about this draft more so than past drafts, and I don't know what it is about this draft that I think it's just the idea of picking sixth in a 3-quarterback draft, in my opinion, that would like really get me excited, really truly get me excited. That no man's land feel. I think I've really kind of cornered this down into this. I really love Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. I think I've said it numerous times on this podcast. I've said it elsewhere on the air. By the way, you get this free on the Audacy App as well as some of our other work, including on Evan and Tiki Monday through Friday, WFAN. I really love Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, and I fear for them with this draft. I fear for them because I don't want their legacy to get screwed by being stuck in an awkward, bad position. And this comes back to the regular season, man. I bought into DeVito hype because I'm a fan, but at its core, ahead of all of those games, I kept screaming that the best thing to do for this team is to lose. Now, players are not going to lose games on purpose, but management can elect to sit guys to try to lose games on purpose. See the Philadelphia Eagles of a couple of years ago. The Giants didn't do that. And I argue with Tiki a ton about this because from the player standpoint, I get it. It's all about building culture. Well, your culture is only going to be so good if you don't walk away from a regime or a franchise without the most important position on the field. And the Giants may not get the quarterback they covet because they won a couple games versus the Packers and whoever the heck else they beat, the Eagles down the stretch on the last game of the year. They're going to miss out. Yeah, the Patriots game, they could miss out. The Patriots game and beating Washington, by the way. Look at the two teams ahead of them. You could miss out because of that. And I hope that Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll don't panic pick a player they're not comfortable with at the quarterback position because they feel like they have to. Kind of trust they won't, but my heart's in my throat about the whole thing. I was way more excited ahead of Daniel Jones' draft. Even if that resulted in the wrong guy, just because it felt like they could be in position to take the quarterback. I was way more excited in 2004 ahead of Eli, so I'm nervous, man. I'm nervous. It's not to say I won't be, and I won't find the glimmer of positivity. I'm sure I will. Thursday night, it's going to be hard for them to pick a guy where I don't immediately turn around and look at the positive, and that even includes J.J. McCarthy, who I'm on record as saying I don't want. But I think that's what it comes down to, man. I don't want this draft to be what gets Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen fired, ultimately, because I like what they're building. So, hate to do that negative spin. Now, with that being said, I got to turn to, Giant fandom here and the Giants fans as a whole. Man, I had just tweeted this. We're taping this on Tuesday, April 23rd. I feel like there are a lot of Giants fans who are playing fantasy football here ahead of the draft, Bryce. I really do. Where there's so much vitriol for Daniel Jones. So much, he stinks. We got to move on. Some of it's fair, some of it's not fair. Again, I keep coming back to this. Whatever you think of his ability, to me, becomes irrelevant in the argument of durability and the injuries. And I think that's the biggest reason above anything else that you plant the flag and you go, the Giants got to find a way, especially with the way the contract's structured, to move on a quarterback. But it's almost as if Giants fans aren't seeing the reality here. And the reality is, despite what Elliott Wolf says with the Patriots picking 3rd overall, the Bears, the Commanders, and the Patriots are all quarterback-needy teams picking 1, 2, and 3 in the draft, and the Giants are sitting at 6th. Other drafts with 3 quarterbacks, you would feel a lot more positive about the New York Football Giants. A lot more positive. I can't see that. I can't see where you could sit there at 6 and go, they're definitely going to get their guy. They're definitely going to get their guy. They're definitely going to get. How could you say that when those 2 teams you pick 1, 2, and 3? Now, the caveat above all of this is, do the Patriots like J.J. McCarthy? And if they do, and it's Drake May or Jaden Daniels that falls and the Giants jump up to 4, then fans get excited. But I think Giant fans are setting themselves up for big-time disappointment, assuming that quarterback is who the Giants will come up with at the top of the draft price.
Shaun, they're also talking themselves into whatever is going to happen with the Daniel Jones hate. Like, they're almost like justifying whatever the Giants are going to do based off the fact that they don't trust who Daniel Jones is as a quarterback. And I think that it's fair, the criticism. We've talked about it a million times before here. And I know that isn't the main topic of discussion, but this negativity, this surge of negativity about Daniel Jones, about whatever you may call it, I think is to try to justify whatever the Giants do. Because I think fans don't want to be hurt at the end of the day. They don't want to have to deal with the fact that the Giants had to make this crazy move to trade up for J.J. McCarthy, who no one's really sure.
Yeah.
So they're telling themselves subconsciously now that Daniel Jones is awful. Whatever the Giants do, if they pick up that quarterback, no matter what it takes, awesome, great. At least now they have their quarterback in the future, but that's not the case. And it won't be the case until we actually see it. Also, how it plays out over the next few years. Because if it's J.J. McCarthy, we're not going to know for sure right away. Maybe not even next year. Maybe not even the year after that, Shaun.
I mean, look at Daniel Jones. There's a lot of us who still don't know 6 years later. So, of course. But the bottom line is this, they're not going to get some kind of polished, perfect product at quarterback if the pick is quarterback. So I just think fans have way outdone themselves with the Daniel Jones hate, to the point where I think there's unrealistic expectations ahead of night 1 of the NFL draft. Now, I do want to fill everybody in. With the Giants pick at 6th overall, Jordan Renan put this out there today on Tuesday. Does a great job covering the Giants. I love Jordan's work for ESPN. Jordan put out there that the Arizona Cardinals, if they are going to move back in the draft, are more likely than not going to want to move further than 6. Remember, the Vikings have those 2 picks later on, and everybody keeps pointing to 2 first-round picks being used to move up. Why is that important? Clearly, Arizona probably targets one of these top 3 receivers, whether it's Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze. They're not getting one of those 3 if they trade further back with the Vikings. They could still get that guy. If they know the Giants are going to take a quarterback at 4, they're going to get the guy whoever the Chargers don't pick, and still have a pick of 2 guys. So that makes a lot of sense. So the Cardinals still are the wild card there, and what the Giants do. I'd preferably, the Patriots draft J.J. McCarthy. I'm pounding the table for the Giants to trade up for either Daniels or May. Probably May at that point, if you're connecting Commanders-Daniels ties, but who could keep track of that drama? But that would be something to keep an eye on. The other part, Giant fan frustration. If they stand pat at 6, take a wide receiver. That's a good thing. Still an enormous need for this team to walk away with a number 1 wide receiver. I don't buy into the Joe Alt hype. I'd be minorly disappointed, but at the same time, how can you yell and scream about offensive line, and then they take the best offensive lineman on the board? Again, I would find the positive in that, though I don't want that. Don't turn off your TVs after pick number 6. I'm going to stress that to Giants. Yes, the Knicks will be playing. Yes, the Islanders will be playing. It is a wild Thursday night in New York sports. The Yankees will be playing the A's. The Mets are a day game, I believe, so we don't have to worry about that. Wild night New York sports. But why don't you turn off the TV at 6? I still think it's in play. The Giants jump back in the later part of the first round, depending on what's gone on with Michael Penix. And to a lesser extent, Bo Nix. I don't love Bo Nix, but I'm not a GM or a scout or coach. I'm just saying that because the value of the fifth-year option, if you view a guy as a high-end second-round pick where the Giants would be picking whatever that is, 40, where are they? 47, is that the other pick they gave up? If you're standing there, sitting there, and you want that quarterback in round 2, maybe that's the play. Maybe you trade back in at the end of round 1, and then you get that extra fifth-year option. So I don't think the Giants are done for business if the pick isn't quarterback at 6. That wouldn't shock me at all, Bryce, if they ended up getting 2 first-round picks out of it, but the pick is, say, Michael Penix later in the first round.
What if, and this is, I'm absolutely speculating, I'm spewing. What if the Vikings trade with the Giants, trade up to 6, and they give up 12 and a second and a third, and the Giants move back to 12, whatever. And then the Vikings use that pick to trade to 4 and give up that one and their 23rd pick. And the Giants end up 6 spots back in a better spot. I'm just, who knows? Who knows? I'm just saying, like, I'm putting that out
there. And then you have 2 second-round picks, something like that.
Something like that.
Look, Bryce, I think anything's on the table. I hadn't thought of that idea. So, basically use wide receiver corner in rounds 2, and you end up with Michael Penix at 12. That would be more palatable.
That might be a little bit too early, though, for Penix. Penix might be there.
Is it, though? I mean, if the Broncos are in the mix, he could go 11 with the Vikings.
Yeah.
That would be more, to me, look at this. That's the first I've heard of that, Bryce. Good job by you. If something like that was on the table, I'd rather that than trade to 4 for J.J. McCarthy.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's the worst case scenario. In that spot, you take a step back.
J.J. McCarthy at 4? J.J. McCarthy at 4 is worse than Roma Dunze combined with Penix between 6 and a later round first round pick. I'd rather have the Washington, the dogs, bringing the dogs. That thing will get chanted. But, maybe I'm talking myself out of McCarthy, and that is real. I'm in a blender here. I'm just ready for draft night to get here, man. I really am.
Anxiety.
Yeah, we're going to make our pick in just a couple moments, but I do want to, address a couple other things, and we'll get to this. We're going to recap round 1 of the NFL draft either Thursday night or Friday morning. We'll put that out there free on the Audacy app everywhere podcasts are available, and we're going to spin that ahead and look ahead to the other rounds. The Giants are in a spot with so many things where they should go best player available, but keep in mind, still probably need another cornerback. Maybe that's the pick in round 2. If it's quarterback round 1, depending what they do with the other picks, do they even have a round 2 pick? Wide receivers, a deep wide receiver draft. Keep building to that Hyatt Wandell room. I'm considering those guys the core guys in that room. Keep building on that. And don't be afraid to throw a bullet at tight end, offensive line, all of that stuff. Other than corner, man, I guess safety too. Safety's another look unless Dane Belton's going to start here. I'm good basically right now on drafting another pass rush or anything after they win after Brian Burns. Think of them using a second round pick plus money on that already. This needs to be an offensive-focused draft for me, Bryce, other than the cornerback or, dare I say, safety position the rest of the round.
Absolutely. They need to focus on what their needs are, and their 2 major needs right now, and just in general, their needs are on the offensive end. When you look at their offense, we've discussed this, on paper, it's one of the worst offenses in all of football. Like, it's not good whatsoever. And I understand you've got needs at secondary. You lose Xavier McKinney, Deontay Banks is your number 1 cornerback. Like, it's not a good look there, obviously. But your front 7 is what's the strongest part of your entire football team. But at the same time, your offense is atrocious. You question marks all over besides your number 2 and number 3 wide receivers at this point. And who knows what's going on. First off, what's going on with Darren Waller?
Dude,
2 days before the draft, this guy hasn't made a decision yet.
When we're going to find out?
If he comes out next week and says that he's retiring, I will be enraged. I will be infuriated if this guy screws up potentially the Giants draft plans because he didn't want to make a decision early enough.
It's going to happen, dude. Yeah, be prepared. That's like a Monday announcement. Now, again, I still don't buy that it's going to screw up their draft plans. They signed a couple backup tight ends. They have Bellinger to start. I don't think it's a back. What they need to do is still get a weapon, though. You can't count on Waller to be the weapon. Forget the actual intricacies of tight end. They need to come out of here the first 2 rounds here with a wide receiver, in my opinion. All right, Bryce, maybe it's a little short today. That's all right. We got a lot more to chew on after round 1. We need to give our final picks on what's going to happen in round 1 of the NFL draft. On the record, what happens with the New York Football Giants? I'll allow you to go first, even if you want to explain what's happening in front of them, behind. What do you got?
So I'm thinking a lot about this, and I'm resigned to the idea that the Giants, at the end of the day, when they look at what other teams are going to be able to give up to get J.J. McCarthy at 4 or at 5, I think the Giants look at what they have and they stay at 6 and they take Malik Nabers. I think at the end of the day, from what I've heard, Malik Nabers is the number one overall prospect in a lot of these past drafts.
So for the record, you don't think Cardinals or Chargers take Nabers?
I think that one of those teams, the Vikings or the Broncos, will trade up. I think their need for quarterback, I think, supersedes the Giants' need for a quarterback, and also considering the fact what else they have. They're more win now. You look at the Broncos, what they had to give up Russell Wilson. They need a quarterback now. Like, there's no retooling, rebuilding for the future. They just traded for Zach Wilson. Like, they need to make a move. They need their quarterback in the future. It appears that these teams really like J.J. McCarthy. And if I'm the Giants, I sit back. I don't give up any assets. Everything happens for a reason, Shaun. Everything happens for a reason in terms of the fact that they won games they shouldn't have won games. They had a 3-game win streak. They should be in the top 3. They're not. So you sit back, you take this guy in Malik Nabers, who hopefully will be there at 6. Hopefully it's not Roma Donze. Like, that's my one biggest fear, that no one trades up for McCarthy, and the Giants at 6 are forced with the decision of, do we take McCarthy or do we go receiver? And at that point, Nabers is off the board. Like, I think that's definitely not worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is they trade up for McCarthy. I think at 6, I'd be much more comfortable with taking McCarthy there, especially if there's actual interest from other teams. And maybe he's still there at 6. What if the Broncos or what if the Vikings want to trade up with the Giants at 6? And they move back and they retool and they get all these assets. They could pick Penix later on in the first round. They could go offensive line mid-first round. Like, we really have no idea, but that could be a possibility. I just can't see the Giants trading up for McCarthy. But at the end of the day, I really think what's going to happen is they sit back and they get Malik Nabers.
I mean, I don't hate it. I wouldn't hate it. My gut at my core for the last 3 weeks has told me the Giants end up at 6 with Roma Dunze, and the draft goes to playing with the 3 quarterbacks and 3 wide receivers, and it's McCarthy who falls. We had painted that picture a couple weeks ago, and I could see the controversy. You passed on McCarthy to take the wide receiver. That is what my gut has told me for weeks. My gut has shifted over the last 24 hours. I was fully put over after what happened at the end of the Knicks-Sixers game 2 on Monday night. New York sports doesn't have moments like that with what happened with the Knicks. I think the New England Patriots are going to select J.J. McCarthy 3rd overall.
Get out of here.
And it is going to send alarm bells off in East Rutherford. And I think it's the Giants who trade up with the Arizona Cardinals and take Drake May 4th overall. I just have this feeling. I hadn't had that feeling. Something fishy with Elliott Wolf open for business. I get the vibe that Elliott Wolf and the Patriots like Daniels, and that's who the Commanders are going with. We've seen weird inklings of the May fall a little bit. I think Drake May is a New York Giant on Thursday night because the New England Patriots, with a defensive-minded head coach, have gone with the more ready product to start right away in J.J. McCarthy. The Giants stun the world and get Drake May on Thursday night.
You got me excited, Shaun. You got me really excited thinking about that right now. That prospect. I mean, that would be unbelievable to leave the draft with Drake May. And especially giving up less to go to 4 than they would have to go to 3.
Well, be careful on that because if it's Drake May that's available at 4, you could get a big bidding war where the Vikings are really, moving. That could be. You might still have to give up a little more than you think.
But at the same time, the Giants have the higher first-round draft pick at the end of the day. Like, they objectively have the better. You want the 6th pick over 12 and 23.
Of course.
I think at the end.
That doesn't mean it'll cost them more capital than you think. So,
no, of course.
By the way, if that happens, great for one Giant step. We'll clip that out. We'll put it out there. And we were right. And it'll all be thanks to that Nick comeback versus the Sixers because things like that don't happen to New York sports. All right. We'll be back with you after round 1. I'm Shaun Morash. Follow me on Twitter at Shaun Morash. He's Bryce Gelman at Bryce Gelman. Bryce, let's get through round 1, baby. All right. Thank you, everybody. You can download, subscribe, One Giant Step free on the Audacy app everywhere podcasts are available. Thanks for taking one giant step with us.